At Crawford for the moment. There's the overhand right, and another combination.
What's going on, you guys? So Terence Crawford, Shawn Porter. We all saw how that fight concluded, right? Kenny Porter ended up throwing in the towel, and it led to some criticism from boxing fans, right? It essentially watered down Terence Crawford's victory over Showtime Shawn Porter. Hit that like button for your boy. Give me that HBO special. That's the Help a Brother Out special. We're on the road to 100,000 subscribers. But Kenny Porter, man, he's been doing a series of interviews talking about Terence Bud Crawford. One interview, he says that he sees Jerome Boots Ennis having an easier time with Crawford than he would Errol Spence. And on a more recent interview with Broadway Joel, salute to Broadway Joel for having an interview with Kenny Porter. Go check out his channel, Broadway Joel. He was speaking about the Crawford-Porter fight. And as we know, Kenny Porter threw in the towel, and it somewhat tainted Terence Crawford's victory over Shawn Porter. It's almost like Kenny Porter knew what to do, right? If push came to shove, he was going to pull his son out of the fight, and then it was going to somewhat water down Terence Crawford's victory over his son. But Kenny Porter, in this particular interview, he didn't even mention Crawford's name. He was calling him this guy, right? This guy. But he talked about Errol Spence. He mentioned Errol Spence's name and everybody else's name, but he called Crawford this guy. So it seemed like Kenny Porter is mad because, let's be honest, not only did Crawford end his son's career, but he essentially ended Kenny Porter's career as well. And now Kenny Porter seems to feel some type of way about it. I'm getting vibes that he really, really feels some type of way about Terence Bud Crawford for what he did to his son. Now, Kenny Porter, in this particular interview, really, really downplayed Terence Bud Crawford's victory. Said that I seen what was going on in camp and yada, yada, yada. But according to Shawn Porter, he trained his hardest for that Terence Crawford fight, right? He was in the mountains. He was in seclusion. He said he did everything he had to do to try to get that victory over Terence Bud Crawford. But according to Kenny, he felt different. He felt that his son Shawn wasn't doing what he was supposed to do in that training camp. But according to Kenny Porter, he says that his son Shawn wasn't doing things that he was supposed to do. He even compared the previous fights with Keith One-Time Thurman and Errol Spence Jr. as if that guy pretty much showed up, well, it probably would have been a different fight. But we saw how that fight played out, right? Shawn Porter was well into the fight. It's not like he was totally getting outclassed. However, Terence Crawford handled Shawn Porter a lot better than any of those guys previously mentioned. And then once we got to the 9th round, Terence Crawford just turned it up and ended the fight instantly, right? Dropped him twice. We never seen Shawn Porter get dropped twice in a fight. Kenny Porter essentially threw in the towel. Now, we know if that fight continued, we knew the inevitable was at hand. We knew Terence Crawford was going to end up highlight reeling Showtime Shawn Porter. Shawn Porter himself never downplayed the victory that Terence Crawford has over him. But his father, yeah, this guy, right? This guy. If you see the interview, you see what I'm talking about. Totally downplayed the victory. And now you got guys coming out saying this and that. And, Crawford really beat an old Porter, and Porter was halfway out the door. And now is another named guy that fans demanded Crawford to fight. Oh, well, he was past his prime. Oh, well, he was this. Oh, well, he wasn't better than he was before. But Shawn Porter looked fine prior to going into the fight with Terence Bud Crawford, right? And if I'm honest, Terence Crawford is older than Shawn Porter, if I'm not mistaken. So, and then Terence Crawford has more fights than Shawn Porter. Now, it's not Terence Crawford's fault that Shawn Porter's style is a little bit more rough and tough and rugged. And Terence Crawford can get through these fights virtually unscathed, right? But Kenny Porter downplayed Terence Crawford, and he looks like a hater out here in these boxing streets. Couldn't even mention the guy by his name. Yeah, that's right, this guy. Couldn't even mention this guy by his name. I mean, these guys, bro. These guys. It's almost like it's an agenda from those guys on that side to really, really, really downplay and dismiss Terence Crawford. I mean, you hearing your Dennis Ugas coming out saying stuff. You seeing this guy, that guy, this guy, that guy, right? But none of those guys really want to step in the ring and walk into that fire. None of those guys want to step into the ring. I mean, Kenny, what happened? Because before the fight, you seem to have a lot of respect for Terence Bud Crawford. But after the fight, oh, well, now he's not even Terence Crawford anymore. His name is this guy. Kenny Porter's giving off the vibes of a man that is bitter, spiteful, hateful, right? He said, you saw what Errol Spence did, right? He caught him with a good shot. Sean Porter got up, shook it off like it was nothing. But then why'd you throw in the towel, right? Why did you throw in the towel then? Okay, your son got dropped a couple of times by Terence Crawford, late in the fight too, and then you threw in a towel, right? Closing the show on your son's career early. Yeah, Sean Porter probably could have continued, for sure. We knew he could have. But we knew also what was going to happen if it did continue. And you did too. So to save face, we're going to just say, well, Sean Porter didn't train as hard. Well, he was halfway out the door anyway. He was looking for retirement. Instead of letting his son go out on his shield, he took it upon himself to throw in the towel. And now he's going to downplay this guy, Terence Bud Crawford. Pretty disgusting, right? And it seemed like it's just an agenda by a lot of company men from the Premier Boxing Champions. That's just what it looks like. I could be wrong, but that's just what it looks like. John Boo's Ennis can beat Crawford. Based off of what? Based off of what? Errol Spence is the harder fight. Based off of what? Because Terence Crawford had a easier time with your son than Errol Spence did. Errol Spence went tooth and nail with Sean. Tooth and nail. The knockdown was the only difference in the fight. But you still calling him Errol and things of that nature. But we call him Terence Crawford. Now his name is this guy. Yeah, Kenny Porter mad, y'all. Kenny Porter real mad because not only did Terence Crawford end Sean Porter's career, and I love Sean Porter. He's a warrior. He deserves all the respect in the world. But he also ended his father's career as well. And this is why Kenny Porter's mad. Now because he's not going to be in the mix like that anymore. He don't have any fighters right now that's at the level or the caliber of his son just yet. So he's back in the background once again. And he's mad now. That's what it is. Hey, Kenny, whether you threw in that towel or not, unfortunately for Sean Porter, and he's a great guy, but unfortunately for Sean Porter, he was in there with Terence Bud Crawford. And we know what happens when Terence Bud Crawford smells blood. We know what happens when Terence Bud Crawford hurts you. The end is at hand. Oh, well, he hit him with that little light shot, and he went down. Errol Spence caught him with a good shot, championing Errol Spence's performance over Terence Bud Crawford's performance when Terence Bud Crawford had the cleaner performance against Sean Porter, a rugged, rough Sean Porter. I mean, most guys that fight Sean Porter, it's never an easy fight for anybody, but Terence Crawford made it look relatively easy. Even though Sean Porter was pretty competitive in the fight, it wasn't a situation to where Crawford was getting mauled or bullied or muscled. I mean, Terence Crawford even picked up Sean Porter and started walking him to display his strength. Sean Porter couldn't bully, push, or maul Terence Crawford in the slightest. He couldn't do it at all. But we just go blame it on the fact that Sean Porter just didn't train hard enough. We go blame it on the fact that Sean Porter was halfway out the door anyway. But prior to that fight, Sean Porter said he trained his hardest. Sean Porter himself said he trained his hardest. Sean Porter also said that, yeah, his dad was telling him to do things, but he said, nah, I feel like I need to do something different. Sean Porter was locked in, laser focused on that fight with Terence Bud Crawford because he knew what he was getting in there with. He was in the mountains in seclusion. When has Sean Porter went to the mountains to train? Did he do that for Spence? Nah, I don't think so. But he did it for Terence Bud Crawford. And these guys pay attention to what us guys on YouTube say. These guys pay attention to what the fans say on social media. And Kenny Porter knows that there's a lot of guys who are going to be championing what he's been saying because it's going to fit their narrative that Terence Crawford still ain't fighting nobody. Terence Crawford fighting guys that's past their prime. Terence Crawford that's fighting guys that's halfway out the door. But this is the same guy that fans told him he had to fight to get to Errol Spence. I mean, it's almost like Shawn Porter was the pseudo lapdog or guard dog for Errol Spence Jr. Oh, well, you got to fight this guy first in order to get a fight with Errol Spence. Okay, I'll go ahead and do that. Shawn Porter crossed the street. Salute to Shawn Porter from crossing the street. He crossed the street, unlike any of those other dudes, and put up his best effort. And unfortunately for him, he was in there with Terence Bud Crawford. And also unfortunately for him, his dad threw in the towel and didn't let him go out on his shield. He didn't give him a chance to come back in the fight, but we all know what happens. Kenny Porter knew what would happen if that fight continued, and that's why he threw in that towel. But yeah, you guys, go check out the interview, Broadway Joe. I'll leave the link in the description for you guys to check it out and see what Kenny Porter had to say about this guy, Terence Bud Crawford. Like, subscribe, holla at your boy. Peace out.